President Obama announced this week that he's expanding gun background checks, and the conservatives freaked out over the latest Obama gun grab. Obviously, the executive order doesn't do that, and doesn't even close the gun show loophole like a lot of people were saying. In fact, a lot of critics are arguing that this action is not going to affect the right. This action, which was actually done in response to rising mass shootings, wouldn't have affected a single one of them. Josh, do you think that this is an effective way to at least get the ball rolling on common sense ways to combat, the country's massive gun violence problem, or is it just for show?
Well, I think it's a bit of both. The extent to which these measures are tepid and toothless, in that, like you point out, it doesn't close the gun show loophole or anything. I think that's because it was carefully done to withstand the inevitable legal challenges that they are going to face. And I do think that it's for show. I do think that President Obama and the White House do want to at least appear to be doing something about guns. And while the Associated Press and, the conservative outlet that it is, ruled that this wouldn't have stopped any mass shootings, they did point out that these are actually, the area that it most poses to affect is suicides, which make up 2/3 of gun deaths. Now, whether that'll actually work or not, who knows? But I do think that it is an attempt, to do something. And, when it comes to suicide, people don't typically care as much as they do about, say, murders, whether it's crime in Chicago or rampage killings. But the fact that it is 2/3 of the over 30,000 gun deaths a year is nothing to sneeze at.
To what you just said, one of the most mind-blowing arguments against Obama's action I heard came from Glenn Beck, who said that the same way that if you ban abortions, people will get back alley abortions. If you ban mentally ill people from getting guns, they'll go and seek out back alley ways to commit suicide. Just mind blown. But Peter, do you think that this is really an effective way to start going after gun violence in America, or is this really just as toothless as Josh said?
It's 90% plus show. Obama was under tremendous pressure to do something, and he knows that he can't possibly get any real laws passed. And check me on this, gentlemen. I think it was what he called a presidential directive, not an executive order or executive directive, which has the power of nothing. An executive order or presidential order can actually compel people in the executive branch, the IRS or the State Department, to actually do something. They have to follow that, or take up, residence in a wildlife refuge with guns. But with a presidential directive, it's basically kind of like, don't forget your coat when you go out. It
does clarify the federal law that it applies to more than just gun shops.
And the ATF and things like that are already under the executive purview anyway. So, to be honest, that directive thing is news to me, but I would think that...
Check me on that. But let's go back. I mean, whatever you want to call it, whatever it was, I mean, there are so many holes in it. It looks like someone shot it up with a machine gun. I mean, go back to...
No pun intended.
Yeah, touche, Mr. Ford asshole. I mean, No, I mean, you take a look at the gun show loophole, and for those of our listeners who are just waking up from their New Year's comas, I mean, this is basically if you go to a gun shop, a licensed gun shop, and you say, "I'd like to purchase, machine guns, please," they have to run your name through a federal database that shows you're not a mentally ill person or a felon or a couple of very narrow categories that would eliminate you. However, if you purchase a gun privately, anything from Josh selling me his weapon to me going to a gun show where there's a dealer who has a table full of weapons, then there's no real requirement for this name check, this background check. There's a few states that throw up some obstacles, but the basic idea is a private sale is a private sale. This is called the gun show loophole. So a guy who legally can't buy a firearm at a gun store can go to one of these private situations and just pick it up, no questions asked. Obama is saying we need to close that loophole, as gun control advocates have been saying for decades. the thing is that Obama's order, directive, whatever you want to call it, actually says, well, it's only going to apply to people, I think what the exact words, whose primary business is selling guns. I mean, some of these gun show dealers, this is what they do. Every Saturday and Sunday, they're someplace else selling their stuff. Same way people do travel around selling baseball cards or coins or whatever. So there's going to be this question about what constitutes their main business, a question of who's going to actually enforce it. I mean, the ATF is going to swoop down on gun shows and say, by the way, sir, how much money do you make a year selling guns? Well, nothing. First time you're it's an unenforceable thing. It will not stop realistically anything else. I suspect Obama was just under pressure to do something. And as Josh said, I mean, he knew he was going to take flack over whatever he said. And I think he just punted on this one, shed a few tears, perhaps for what's left of our country, and then, bailed out.